Once you build that initial baseline of confidence, of knowing what's meant for you, of trusting that whatever's happened in the past is there to help support you moving forward, now we move into the phase of trusting yourself, of learning what is your intuition and what is just other people's egos, opinions, and stories getting in the way. Because that level of discernment is what's going to help you in those moments where things aren't clear, where everything around you feels foggy, where you can't see the next 3 steps forward. That is when we need to lean on our intuition the most. And so what's getting in the way of hearing yourself clearly? I'm Bethany, and this is Life.ing. I guide women back to themselves through grounded spiritual practices and honest conversations about what it actually takes to build a life that feels like yours. This isn't another self-help podcast. It's a space for women who are tired of knowing what needs to change, but not changing it. We talk about devotion, self-trust, and what happens when you finally stop abandoning yourself. If you're in the middle season between who you were and who you're becoming, welcome home. Hello, loves, and welcome to a very special archive episode number 5 here on Life.ing. Excuse my background for today's episode. It's not my usual one because I just had to get on the mic and share what's been coming up recently. I think it's something that we all need to hear. Today, I want to talk about giving up and what it means to keep going and why you should keep going. Because we can feel the intuitive pull, that nudge, that knowing that we're supposed to do this thing or be somewhere or have this career or take this leap. It's such a calm, certain space within us. And I think that what we don't really give enough energy and attention to is what happens when you choose that thing that's calling to you. Because even when it is something that's truly aligned for you and meant for you, there can be a lot of obstacles and challenges that come up along the way. And a lot of those obstacles actually come from ourself. You know, I've been doing this work for 10 years, and if there's one thing I've come to understand about energy and how we can work with it instead of against it or resist it, it's really understanding how energy shows up within our day-to-day life. Because everything that happens outside of us and around us is honestly just a reflection of ourselves. And so the experiences and things that tend to show up in our life is mirroring something within ourselves that we can look at, that we can shift, that we can change. And when it comes to following a passion, to planting a seed of intention, of something that is meant to be yours, there are things that we can allow ourselves to anchor into, so we can continue to move forward and to keep going with what's meant for us. Because I feel like I've been in this space over the years of running Bethany Heals, where I know this is something that I'm meant to do. I've seen how it's been able to transform and change the lives of others. And yet I still question whether or not I can keep going sometimes. There are so many moments that I could look back on where I put so much energy into things that didn't work out. And in those moments are when I question myself the most. And so when you find yourself in this space of trusting yourself with something that is meant for you, that you've decided to move forward with, how do you keep going? What is that fire within you that allows you to push through the resistance? When I was saying that our outer experiences are kind of a mirror of ourselves, it makes me think about how our experiences from our past can influence our decisions in the present. And using myself as an example of those past experiences where things didn't work out the way that I thought they would, I could allow those quote unquote failures to define my story. I can allow those failures to be like, you know what? I'm done. This isn't working out. This wasn't meant to be. I needed to leave this here. But for me, because I have this certainty, this knowingness that this is what I'm here to do, I can't lean on those failures as excuses to stop. I have to shift my perspective into seeing, what did I learn from this experience? What did I learn from this situation? What can I take from these past failures to strengthen what I'm going to do next time, to embolden how I'm going to show up next, to allow myself to improve my skill set in these ways that failed in the past. I think the real question is, how bad do you really want it? Because it's not always going to be perfect or easy. Sometimes the things that we want the most are asking us, how much do you really trust yourself? How much can you trust the process of what's unfolding for you? Because I think we forget sometimes that we are not the only ones in this universe, in this world, right? Imagine how many other pieces to your puzzle have to be placed and put together for you to have that vision that you have for yourself. How many other people are involved in the creation of your vision? And I know that we don't want to hear this word, but this is where patience comes in, because there's so many moving pieces that we can't necessarily see that are a part of our journey. And sometimes the setback is only there to push us even further. And so when we're sitting in this space of stagnation, of feeling stuck, how do we move ourselves out of that? Because it can feel so easy to stay in these lower vibrational energies and spaces and to wallow in what wasn't or what isn't working. But these are the exact moments that we have to pull from our inner strength the most. And this is something that I worked through with my women in Elixir. We spent 8 weeks together breaking down these walls, breaking down these barriers, rebuilding confidence. So when we choose ourselves, we can do it fully, knowing that regardless of what's happening outside of us, I've got me. It's where you keep showing up and choosing yourself again and again and again until it becomes your baseline. Now, when I think about the women that have gone through Elixir, they're in these moments. They have the perfect job. They have the family. They have the life. They are doing all the right things a lot of the time, but it's not the right things that are for them. And so they find themselves in these spaces of stagnation where it's like, okay, well, what do I do next? And how do I follow through with what's actually meant for me? And so when we find ourselves in these spaces, we really have to look at what's underneath it all, right? These subconscious, unconscious layers of the self, where we have these old stories and these limiting beliefs and these limitations that have been placed on us by others. What is getting in the way of my follow through? A lot of the times it can be your energy, but it could also be someone else's. And so it's doing that deep inner work of looking at the parts of ourselves that we may not necessarily want to acknowledge, but giving love to that part of ourselves and healing it and kind of closing the chapter and allowing that to be what it was. Giving yourself permission to take that wisdom from those experiences and move forward. Because as you start to see your past as a part of the foundation for who you're becoming, you notice that all of those experiences were there to build you up, not break you down. And you know my story. You know what I've been through. I have lost everything and I've had to start over from square one with nothing at all. So I know what it means to rebuild your life from the ground up. And also what it means to look at your past choices without shame or guilt. That's where you're able to take your power back from those moments that were the most challenging for you. And that is the fuel that can allow you to keep going, to keep moving forward. Because once you build that initial baseline of confidence, of knowing what's meant for you, of trusting that whatever's happened in the past is there to help support you moving forward, now we move into the phase of trusting yourself, of learning what is your intuition and what is just other people's egos, opinions, and stories getting in the way. Because that level of discernment is what's going to help you in those moments where things aren't clear, where everything around you feels foggy, where you can't see the next 3 steps forward. That is when we need to lean on our intuition the most. And so what's getting in the way of hearing yourself clearly? Because once you find out what it is that's blocking your clarity and your inner knowing, and you learn how to clear that out, the world is really your oyster. You have this innate connection to your higher self, this future version of yourself that knows the way forward, even if it's just one step. And I think that the biggest piece of all, after aligning with your confidence and your intuition, is the energy of and knowing that you're worthy of receiving what it is that you want for yourself. Why don't you think that you deserve it? Who says that you can't have it? And what's blocking your ability to receive, to have what it is that you want for yourself? These are the places that we need to look at that we don't look at enough. And when I think about the women that have gone through Elixir, the transformations that happened for them are truly life-changing. They've left their careers that they were completely successful at to pursue something that they actually loved. They said the damn thing that was getting in the way of having a healthier relationship dynamic with their partners, with their friends. They've learned how to love themselves first and how to prioritize what they know they deserve above all else, and allowed everything around them to match that new baseline. When you start to show up for yourself in that way, life has no other excuse but to match you. And when I think about the times that I've wanted to give up with my work, instead of looking back at my failures and I want to connect into that energy of abundance, I look at everything that has gone right. I look at all of the people that I've helped over the past 5-6 years of running Bethany Heals. I look back and I think about the responses to my emails that I sent, where people respond and they're like, I printed this and I wrote all through it. Or they respond and they're like, thank you for sharing this. I really thought about this and this is what came up for me. And in those moments when I think I'm talking to the void and no one's listening and there's no one that I'm helping, I remember that it was never about me. It was for them. And what's really getting in the way of me continuing to move forward with my work and what I'm here to do is just my ego. You know, our ego is there to protect us. And what my ego is saying is, this isn't working. You need to just let it go. Nothing is going to come from this. But what actually feels unsafe for me isn't something that can actually harm me. So my ego isn't serving me in this moment. It's pulling from its most reptilian space of survival. But this fight or flight feeling that comes up isn't real. This is where we need to learn how to discern what is our intuition and what is just the mind trying to protect itself. This is your reminder that our intuition will never speak from a place of fear. It'll never speak from a place of rushing, of urgency, of this is all that you have left. Our intuition will always speak to us from a place of certainty, from this knowingness, this groundedness, where it's like, yes, this is what you need to do next. Yes, this is how you can show up now. Yes, only one person may get this or understand this, but this is for them. They need to hear it. So when you find yourself in this space of wanting to give up, of questioning whether you should keep going, think back to that seed, that intention, that inkling of where it all started. What was that feeling, that knowingness, that message that you got that was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. I need to bring this out into the world. I need to show up in this way. Trust that. That is what's going to allow you to move with the slowness, with the spaciousness, with the expansive journey that we're on. I know time can feel so finite, but when you're fully present in the work that you're doing, time expands. It works for you. It works with you. So this is my little love note for us for this week. It's a Taurus New Moon this weekend, and I'm so excited to tap into that energy of planting the seeds with intention and trusting that my timing is my own, and just allowing myself to speak clearly and with intention about what it is that I'm calling in. And if you're in a space of questioning what it is that you're building, please know that idea didn't drop into your head for no reason. It came to you because it wanted to be expressed through you. So how can you give more trust to your process, not comparing it to others or listening to the stories, the past beliefs, the opinions of others, but trusting that it will fall into place in the exact time that it's meant to. So I'm sending you so much love. Until our next episode, please be sure to follow, like, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and I will see you in our next episode.